The proclamation of the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus said to his disciples, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that does, he prunes, so that it bears more fruit. You are already pruned because of the word that I spoke to you. Remain in me, as I remain in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me will be thrown out like a branch and wither. People will gather them and throw them into a fire, and they will be burned. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask for whatever you want, and it will be done for you. By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples." The Gospel of the Lord.
Our Gospel reading for this Sunday comes from the beautiful 15th chapter of St. John. We have been reflecting on bearing much fruit. This is part of the mission of the witnesses of the risen Lord. You bear much fruit. And in the first two readings, we saw these beautiful fruits that come with the encounter with the risen Lord and the life of fidelity to the risen Lord. In the first reading, we have the missionary zeal, the commitment, the perseverance of St. Paul, all rooted in his encounter with the living Lord and his living now in Jesus. This is St. Paul who said, "It is Christ who lives in me. It is no longer I that live." Wow! If Jesus is your life, then you bear fruit in mission. And in the second reading, we see how remaining in Jesus will enable us to bear fruit of love and inner peace. The peace that comes with a clear conscience, a conscience that is in harmony with God. But that will happen only if we believe in Jesus and follow His commandment of love. Those are the two ways, according to the second reading, how we can remain in Jesus and then bear much fruit. Now in the Gospel, Jesus uses the image of the vine and the branches. He is the vine, we are the branches. And He says that the branches are expected to bear fruit. If a branch is withered, if the branch is barren, then the vine grower, the Father, will cut it and will throw it. It is of no use. But if the branch is bearing fruit, then it will be trimmed so that it will increase its yield. So even for the fruitful branches, there will be some trimming. There will be some tests. There will be some maybe even sacrifices to be faced, but they are meant in order to increase the yield. Now, we all want to belong to the fruitful branches. I don't think anyone will say, "Oh, I want to belong to the barren and the withered branches that God will throw and set on fire." No, we all want to bear fruit. Now, how? How do we achieve that? Now, Jesus tells us in the Gospel, "Remain in me as I remain in you. Abide in my love as I abide in you. Now, if we go back to the image of the vine and the branches draw life from the vine. The moment the branch is separated from the vine, it has no life in itself. Its life flows to it from the vine. Now, this is the same thing that Jesus is telling us. That's why He says, "You branches, remain in me. Let my life flow into you. For apart from me, you will not bear fruit." In the same way that a branch separated from the vine has no life, cannot produce life by itself, and therefore will be fruitless, so with you. You will have fruit only by drawing life from me. But that means you have to remain in me. Remain in me. Now, in the second reading, we already have been taught how to remain in Jesus. First, by believing in Jesus, a life of faith, accepting Jesus and abandoning ourselves to Him. Second, according to the second reading, by obeying His commandment to love one another. So when we love our neighbors as we love ourselves, we are remaining in the love of Jesus Christ. But in the gospel, we have another, which is related to faith and love. It is by allowing His words to flow into us. If you live in me and my words stay part of you, you may ask what you will. Letting His words stay in us, His life-giving word. That's why reading the Word of God, listening to the Word of God, accepting the Word of God, and allowing the Word of God to linger in our minds and our hearts, making the Word of God the norm of our decisions and action, this is a way of remaining in Jesus. This is a way of bearing much fruit. But in the end, what is the fruit that we all are expecting to bear when we remain in Jesus? It is love. Because that's the very life of God in Jesus Christ. If we remain in Jesus, we remain in love. And the life of Jesus is the life of love. And so the fruit that we bear is love. First, love of God. That's why Jesus says, we will glorify the Father. And other people will glorify the Father through us. In our love, we will give glory to the Father. And we will bear fruit of love in society, in our families, in our world. Are we not all disturbed at the growing poverty, injustice, and violence in many parts of the world? We all long for love. And where there is love, there is peace. If only we would all remain in Jesus, believe in Him, follow His commandment of love, and allow His words, summarized in love of God and love of neighbor, to stay in us and be part of us, then there is only one sure thing: we will bear fruit of love. My dear brothers and sisters, sometimes we long for many fruits, achievement, a good life, a successful career. In our pilgrimage to the Holy Land, we had one pilgrim, a catechist, Tere Chavez. And we learned that she used to be a very successful career woman, bearing much fruit, not only in terms of income, but also the respect of her peers and of her superiors. And another fruit was the good life that she was able to give to her children. You know, this in spite of being widowed unexpectedly. But you see, she could bear fruit a self-made woman. But somehow the trimming from the great vine grower came. She lost her job. But that was an awakening. She realized maybe there are other fruits that the Lord would want her to bear in her life. So she remained in Jesus. She had no one to cling on to but Jesus, the words of Jesus. And she became a catechist, someone proclaiming the word of Christ to young people. And now, that is the fruit that she sees in her life. Not anymore the worldly achievements that she used to aspire for and to. Now she's happy that she is with Jesus and she's able to show the love of Jesus, especially to her children and to the many children that are her children in the classroom for catechetical instruction. She is fulfilled, but she has to remain in Jesus, not to remain in riches, in power, and in fame. Remain in Jesus. The word has been exposed. Let us now fulfill it.